Alrighty, today we're editing this Venice picture with Luminar AI. And I've edited this picture before, it took quite a long time. And if you've watched my other video, you saw that it's really amazing software that packs in a lot of artificial intelligence stuff. We're gonna see how much it's gonna help and if it's even possible today to do the same edit as I did with Lightroom and Photoshop. E aí, I'm Henry, a Brazilian photographer living in Italy, and in this channel we talk photo, video and tech, and today's video is all about editing. We're going again at Luminar AI. This was a really challenging picture because the day we took it, it was a quite boring day, it was really cloudy, the light was a bit all the same, and then I shot this picture already thinking that I would have to do a lot of changes in the editing to make it more interesting. What we're starting with is a very wide 14mm shot. And in the original edit, I replaced the sky on this picture from another picture with another exposure, much darker, in which I could at least see the texture from the sky, and then I could put it in here. But since I didn't take the picture exactly from the same spot, it wasn't done with a tripod, it was a bit difficult to match the edges and everything. So let's just dive into it and I'm gonna walk you through everything that I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So here we're in the catalog part of Luminar. The first things that I want to do, let's go just to templates, and I really couldn't find a template that matched really good, but it's interesting because it suggests us some options here for overcast days. Let's just go straight to edit and we're gonna do everything manually and together. Okay, so let's go through the tools that we have here and let's try first to fix the perspective and then we're gonna get it on with the other things, more or less in the order that we are seeing here on the screen. So first of all, we have enhance composition, we're gonna change first. So we got perspective, rotate and flip. First, I wanna try to bring the building a little bit upper. So change the perspective on the vertical to try to bring it forward a little bit. The 14mm really make everything go backwards a little bit if it's out of the center of the frame. So I wanna do it, but I don't want to overdo it. Otherwise, the top part of the building begins to be a little bit wider than the base. Like this looks pretty cool to me, but the aspect, definitely we can make it a little bit wider. So I'm quite happy with the perspective change. The building looks quite centered, we can see by the lines here, the third lines, and they are just about out of the windows here. Third line is not exactly on this, maybe we crop a little bit. Now they seem to be passing exactly at the same spot on both sides. Applying composition, you can see whenever Luminar is doing something, it's gonna be shiny over the Luminar AI name over there. Okay, so regarding perspective, I think we are good here. We have enhance, so accent, it's gonna make it pop a little bit. We can use it a tiny bit. Sky enhancer, no, because we're gonna replace it entirely, so it doesn't really matter. Regarding light, actually the luminosity everywhere, it's pretty good. We really need to boost the contrast a little bit on this. Regarding white balance, it's looking pretty okay. Exposure looks fine. Smart contrast, let's boost it up a little bit and let's see what it does to the image. So I put it to 21 and yeah, it looks pretty good. Okay, so highlights, I'm gonna lower a little bit because I'm seeing that on the top part here of these buildings, it's a little bit too bright, but it's arriving to a point that bothers me a little bit, so I'll just reduce the highlights a little bit. And regarding the shadows, everything kind of looks the same luminosity, so it's really good to try to add a little bit contrast. And usually what I do when I shoot is I underexpose a little bit and then I recover the shadows, but in this case here, since everything was well lit and just the same, I'll just reduce the shadows a little bit to try to give it a little bit more normal contrast. And then when we choose a sky to be replaced here, we have to think about the lighting also and see if it's gonna match. Okay, this looks pretty cool. Let's check the curves a little bit here. And usually I like to make 3 points to hold the curve in place. If you don't do the points, it's just gonna move everything and it's gonna be a mess. So here we can just lower a little bit the lower part. Let's see what a very tiny S-curve does to this picture. Okay, I'll just lower the midpoint a little bit. And when I'm doing this, I'm just watching to the parts, separate parts of the picture. Kind of like since this picture is really like from bottom to up, it's going from dark to bright. It's almost like seeing this sideways. So it's kind of like the left part of the curves here, it's almost on the bottom or on the darkest windows. The mid part is kind of like in the middle of the buildings and the highlights are really on the top And the whites the sky is totally white in this one. So let's just go forward here to structure. Acts a little bit like the clarity on Lightroom, and it makes the edges of everything kind of like pop a little bit. You can't overdo it, especially if there's a person, but with these buildings here, it looks pretty cool. Okay, now before changing the colors, I really want to change the sky first to have an idea of how the colors are gonna match together, how they're gonna blend in. So we have here in the creative part, and you can see that there's AI written beside the name, which is something that is powered by artificial intelligence. So it's gonna detect automatically in the picture. Here we got blue skies, we got bright blue skies. Let's just choose one here and see what they look like. Okay, this was sky number 1, and it kind of doesn't match really well with the lighting, so we're gonna have to add a little bit more contrast to make it look like there was actually sun that day, even if not direct. And you can see also that the sky is kind of spilling over the building here. You can see that now the sidelines are bluish. So you always have to pay attention, because what is it doing is it's detecting automatically where the sky should be in this picture and then putting something on top of it. But when it doesn't detect the edges really perfect, like for example the upper part of the building was quite bright, then it thinks it still belongs to the sky and then replace it or puts it on top a little bit. So we can still refine this a little bit. Blue skies, let's see bright blue skies, what they do. Since the luminosity is from a totally cloudy day, I think we shouldn't have a totally blue sky, which would lead us to think that there should be like the sun or there should be like sun rays. But since this picture was taken in a day full of clouds, I think the other one matches much better. Let's see the dramatic sunsets here to see what they do. But with sunsets, we have a much harder time also trying to match the colors. So like for example, this doesn't match at all, but it's quite interesting sky. Okay. Definitely blue sky 3. Okay, so now let's refine this mask to get this bluish hue from the top of the building out of there. To change the mask, you just have to come here. The mask works like this. Wherever it's red, the effect is gonna be applied there. If we erase it, if we just delete it from there, we just clean it, then it's not gonna be applied. So what I wanna do is like, I wanna just clean all the building here just to be sure that there won't be any leak from the sky on top of the building. And you couldn't see actually like clouds or anything like that anywhere in the building, but you could see that there was this like blue hue all over, and we don't want that. So I'm just going to make the radius of this a little bit bigger, and we're just gonna, to be sure, we're just gonna pass it around all over the building so that no blue hue is gonna be affecting our image, especially in the central building. But on the sides, I can see also that there's a little bit of blue going on the top of these buildings here. So let's try, oops, too much. Let's try to clean it up a little bit. I'll reduce the radius, like so. And then I'll just brush here a little bit, trying to take this hue out of there. Down here I can be more sloppy and just pass it around like that. But here I need a little bit smaller brush, and I'll just brush over here. And that's it. Let's check the other side. Kind of like the same, but here is a little bit better. Here is quite bluish. Alright, so I adjusted the mask by deleting it from the front of the buildings. Everywhere that I could find that was a little bit bluish, and also I re-included, because I had messed up a little bit, so I re-included a little bit on the edges, not to have this contour around the building that really tells that you changed the sky in the background. So it's not a perfect job, but as far as the sky is concerned, I think this is gonna be enough. Sun rays won't make much sense. Let's check out the glow. So glow really adds a pop, really pops up the whites, a little bit of the saturation also, so I'll just add a little bit. Okay, so now let's go over the colors. And here what I wanna do is, I wanna tone down the sky. So let's just go to saturation, and I'm going to grab the blue and pull it down, but not too much to make it grayish. Okay, so about here is fine. And then we have 3 really dominant colors in this picture. It's the green from the canal, the blue from the sky now, and the orange from the buildings. So what I want to do here is I want to pump up a little bit this orange. So let's just pull the saturation of the orange a little bit, and it's looking really nice. Let's just go to the hue, and I want to change the hue of the yellow. And the yellow here is gonna affect the building, which is a mix of orange, yellow, and red, but it's gonna affect also the canal. Every time you see green, usually you have a mix a green and yellow. And then let's go to the luminance panel, but I really like how the reflections work with the yellow a little bit pumped up a little bit like this. But then the overall exposure is going a bit off right now. So I think I would probably go back to the light and just bring the exposure a notch down, like, but just ever so slightly. Okay, I quite like it like this. Now that we added everything, I can have a little bit better idea of how I want to crop this image. Okay, so let's just pick here 4x5. What I like to do usually is to put it 1x1, which is what you're gonna see when it's on the feed. And then, for example, I don't want the building to be cut when I'm on the feed. So like here would be okay. And then I change it to 4x5 and I see how would it be. So if it's around the middle, like it is here, it's gonna be just fine. Okay, so with the 4x5 crop, what I have here is that I can manage to get exactly the same amount of water on the bottom and sky on the top. So I think I'll just go for the symmetry on this one and I'll just cut it exactly like this. So you just press enter and then Luminar is going to apply. Alright, so we have our final picture here, and usually I go checking along the way to see where am I after the starting point. But for this one I just wanted to go to the end and then see it right now, the huge difference that it makes. So let's just click this icon here and you can see the massive difference. Alright, so is Luminar enough to replace Lightroom and Photoshop? And in my opinion, it's not ready yet to entirely replace those two. But as you could see, it's a really good all-in-one software that can allow you to do an edit like this quite fast. Now a disclaimer, I have to admit that I took quite long to record this video because this notebook doesn't have a dedicated graphics card and it was quite heavy to run Luminar together with the screen recording app. So for sure the performance was affected by that, but Luminar is a little bit on the heavy side, so be sure that you have a little bit above the minimum requirements from them on the website to be sure that you're gonna run it quite smoothly. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel to see more videos like this, and tell me in the comments which other kinds of videos would you like to see also. And I'll see you in the next one. Ciao!